I'm Joanna Simpson here at Risk Minds International in London. Joining me now is Philipp Wackerbeck, Global Head of Financial Services for Strategy and Mark Batten, UK Banking and Capital Markets Leader at PwC UK. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us here.
Thank you. Mark, if I could start with you, what are your reflections on the conference so far?
My reflections on the conference so far, it's absolutely phenomenal. The energy, the buzz, the number of people here, the opportunity to catch up and network with colleagues and friends and to meet new people. I think the buzz builds on the buzz from prior years. Great to be in a different location here in London if the weather is not quite as nice as in Barcelona. And really interesting to hear some very common themes, priorities from the participants, from the speaking sessions and when chatting over coffee.
And PwC launched their Global Risk Survey yesterday. What are the key insights coming out of that?
Yeah, that's right. We undertaken a survey globally, nearly 4,000 participants covering nearly 70 territories, so a really rich data set. We have taken the opportunity to share some of the insights from that survey with the participants here at Risk Minds. And what do we see in those survey results? As we know, we face a lot of challenges, immediate short-term crises. When we look at the world around us, we have macroeconomic headwinds, we have increasing prevalence of climate events, we have geopolitical disruption and war in various territories. So we're being hit by a lot of different short-term crises, which we think of as then being driven by this sort of global long-term system of megatrends. So what did we see in the survey results? Of course, we see those coming through, absolutely, when we look at what are the sort of top priorities, the top area of focus of CROs. Macroeconomic risk with the economic volatility that we see, driven in large part by some of the global crises that we have. Second in the list, interestingly, and I'll come back to this in terms of opportunity, but we see technology as the second risk on risk leaders' agenda. That's cyber, that's the impact of quantum on things like encryption, that's the huge investment and focus we see on AI, which of course is a massive topic at the conference. But we also see things like social instability starting to appear on the top risks that CROs face as these global megatrends, as these crises that we see around the world cause increasing social instability. Again, something that business leaders and CROs need to point to. But we also see cause for optimism, and I'll go back to the point on technology. Although technology came out as the second biggest risk in the risk survey, when we look at and unpack the underlying technologies that we see there, Gen AI, quantum, etc., blockchain, metaverse, the significant proportion of the respondees see that as significantly more an opportunity than it is a threat. So although it's the second biggest threat, by far outweighed by the sense of opportunity. And for us at PwC, that really points to this imperative about how we deal with this system of crises and global megatrends that we see around us. That's about building capability, so investing in people, investing in upskilling, but bringing that together with the proactive, the strategic use of technology. How do we draw on these technologies, embed them in our risk operating model to lead to better business decisions? And in the survey, we identified this group that we call the risk pioneers. And we can see with empirical data that those risk pioneers, it's a small group who are really taking a value creation approach to risk management and investing in both people and technology, are getting significantly better outcomes, not just in terms of risk management, but in terms of a seat at the table with the C-suite and also in terms of financial performance. So yeah, and we've been great fun talking about the results of the survey here at Risk Minds.
Very interesting. And Philipp, you and Mark led a session this morning on the future of banking, how emerging risks are shaping the CRO agenda, which touched on the current macroeconomic volatility and shared insights on how risk leaders should be factoring this into their approach. What were the key takeaways?
Yeah, so Mark already mentioned a couple of points that are very important in this context and that are also showing up in our Global Risk Survey. So despite some very promising news actually that we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks on the inflation numbers and how inflation is coming down both in the US but also in Europe, I think the situation is still fairly fragile. Yeah? That is also shown in the World Uncertainty Index that we tend to look at to see what is the level, the global level of let's say insecurity in the market, insecurity around macroeconomic development, geopolitical development, but also now most recently technology. And that is why I think CROs and risk executives really need to focus on three things going forward. One thing is to, first of all, understand how this risk landscape is evolving, and particularly look also at emerging risks. So emerging risks are new type of risks, largely technology driven, quantum computing, AI, but also geopolitics, and translate that into financial and non-financial risk at the end to quantify it. The second point, and I think there's a lot of debate here at Risk Minds also around it, is how to best embrace AI and the power of Gen AI, both for improving risk management efficiency, but also effectiveness. I think there's a lot of potential, especially when you look at the entire banking value chain. Risk and compliance offers a large opportunity for risk executives in that space. And the third one is really to upgrade the risk infrastructure in terms of what we call ecosystem sensing. So COVID has shown that a lot of the historical correlations we always used to use for assessing the risk do not work anymore. And that's why we need to better understand, banks need to better understand how are their clients really impacted in different scenarios. And what you need to know is how are your clients impacted? How are your clients' suppliers impacted? How does supply chain disruption impact the entire situation? And therefore you need different instruments. You need high frequency indicators, you need upgraded early warning systems. You may need to look into social media listening capabilities, especially after the banking turmoil we had at the beginning of this year. So lots of opportunities for risk managers to add value going forward, and that's great to discuss this year at Risk Minds.
Yes, a lot of things going on there, very interesting points. Philipp, Mark, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Much appreciated.